to day 4 of our Road to the Draft Combine show presented by Southeast Michigan Ford Dealers. I'm your host, Tori Petry. It is Sunday here at the NFL Combine, and as you can see, it's a little bit quiet down here on Radio Row as teams and media outlets start to head out as the weekend begins. But we have stuck around for the weekend because we want to bring you all the highlights, including the conversations with the defensive linemen and linebackers. These are certainly positions of interest for Lions fans, so we made sure to talk to them. Here are the highlights from everything they had to say. Take a look.
Nah, it's a lot of stuff that I took from Alabama and took from how I was bred at Alabama, how I was built at Alabama, that I'm going to take to the NFL. Like, I got to this point being an NFL draft pick from Alabama, everything about discipline, everything Coach Saban taught me, everything that Alabama and Coach Saban instilled in me to be the player I am today. So I'm going to take a lot of those things like discipline, attention to detail, how I watch film, my work ethic, just the Bama standard in general, and take it to the NFL.
The toughest part is just the beginning. It's such a unique injury in that it's literally the muscle you use to breathe, to cough, to go to the bathroom. It's literally, it's your core muscle, so it's something different than I've dealt with before. It's really gradual, small steps, so it's kind of frustrating. But once you get through it, I'm feeling better than I've ever felt right now, so.
I just feel like, my versatility is something that is very, very important when I feel like, you talk about my game. I feel like that has always given me an edge as far as, giving me a benefit on the field. And not only just my versatility as a player, I can play defensive end. I played some defensive tackle this year, 3 technique. I've also played dropping the covers outside linebacker. But not only just doing those things, but I feel like I've done them at a consistently a high level. So that's always given me a bit of confidence as far as my playing. And I've done it against, considering the best competition so far playing at Clemson, so that was a blessing as well.
I think teams are considering me in both in the 3-4 and the 4-3. I talk to teams about dropping and also about staying down in the stands and just playing, getting on the edge.
Oh, yeah, I still I think I'm the best player in this draft. But, if a team doesn't see that, I believe that. I feel like every other guy here should believe that, but I believe that. And if a team doesn't believe that, then I'll see them during the season.
I feel like there's one thing to be like a James Bond cool, and there's another to be warm. Not hot where you're uncontrolled and like you don't know what you're doing. But most of what I do is pretty methodic. Like the stuff at Michigan State, coming out and saying, "Oh, little brother," like that wasn't a direct response. Like, pre-planned. That was a coordinated thing. And so it's like I'm not like I'm emotional, but I'm not temperamental. Like there's a balance that you need to find. I'm very passionate about football. Like I want to be the best. Like I don't want to lose to anybody that lines up against me.
Joining me now to break down all of the conversations with the edge rushers and linebackers from yesterday is Tim Twentyman from DetroitLions.com. Tim, we'll get to the defensive linemen and linebackers in just a second, but since we're a day removed from the tight end and wide receiver drills, let's just run through real quickly some of the top performers from yesterday who stuck out, especially in the 40.
Yeah, well, let's start at the tight ends. There were 12 guys that ran 4.75 or under. We've talked about how deep this tight end group, there was big men running fast yesterday. Noah Fant with leading them with the 4.50 flat. But when you go to the receivers and you talk about the Lions, and we mentioned this before, is maybe they're in the market for that kind of slot type receiver, the shiftier, faster guys. And you look at the times from yesterday, Andy Isabella ran in the 4.2s, Deebo Samuel in the 4.4s, Paris Campbell out of Ohio State ran in the 4.3s, and so there's some guys that had terrific production, shifty, slot-type guys, then came here and ran fast. So, those could be some options for Lions, maybe day 2, day 3.
Something of note as far as Andy Isabella's time goes, he was listed at a 4.31 on the Combine website, but according to Field Yates of ESPN, there was a laser issue in the timing of his 40-yard dash, and he actually went 4.27 in the system that NFL teams work off of. He was one of the guys that was predicted to be one of the fastest, and sure enough, he was.
Yeah, we all expected that. He was a high school standout as a track star, and you watch his film from UMass, he just blows by guys. He's quick, shifty, and so, a kid who did well for himself this week.
All right, well, I think something Lions fans are excited to talk about when it comes to this draft is the defensive line. Tim, we know Rashawn Gary is good. We know Nick Bosa is good. But let's talk about guys who are probably going to be available at pick number 8. Who are some names we should watch for?
Well, Clelin Ferrell out of Clemson had terrific production. Kind of fits the mold of a guy that the Lions would like. He's terrific against the run, sets the edge. He's a guy who doesn't have to come off the field on first, second, or third down. That is a Matt Patricia type guy on that side of the defense. Another name, Montez Sweat on Mississippi State. Look, if you could draw up what you want a defensive lineman to look like, he's it. 6'6", 270 pounds, but can move. We were both at the Senior Bowl, and I thought he was one of the more impressive guys at that Senior Bowl. And so, he'll test out here and probably test out well. He's another name. But, I think the interesting thing about what's shaping up with this draft, or with this combine, is, maybe some names that we didn't expect being in the top 7 ahead of the Lions, maybe jumping themselves up there. And maybe that now increases the pool of players for the Lions at number 8. Guys like Kyler Murray, who, obviously the measurement heard around the world, got to 5'10". Now you're talking about him in the top 7. Well, DK Metcalf, the wide receiver, 6'3", 227 pounds, ran a 4.3, has 1.6% body fat. Some teams might fall in love with that. Is he all of a sudden now moved into the top 6? And so does that now increase the pool of players available for the Lions at number 8? Do guys like Rashawn Gary slip down? Maybe is he available at number 8? Maybe even a guy like Josh Allen. If 2 quarterbacks, a receiver, Bosa, Williams, and maybe an offensive tackle fit in there, you could see that scenario. Maybe a guy like that falls down. So, I think when we're talking about the edge rushers and the defensive edge guys, I think we've got to maybe broaden our horizons a little bit to include guys like that. And I think when you're talking about outside linebackers specifically, guys like Ja'Kai Polite, Brian Barnes, Jalen Ferguson, those are guys that could maybe fit into this defense well, play that kind of Devon Kennard type position as well, get depth there. Eli Harold's a free agent, so you never know. So, I think just overall edge rushers, if they're stand up or hand in the dirt, there's lots of guys that can do multiple things, and I think there's a lot of names that can come into play at number 8.
Certainly. Well, we talked yesterday about the tight end position and how that was definitely in play for the Lions at pick number 8. But I think edge rusher, somebody who can get after the quarterback, a defensive playmaker, is probably a pretty popular selection for the Lions as well.
It just makes the most sense. Look, this is a Lions team that had 43 sacks last year, and that was, I think, 11th most in the NFL. But their leading sack guy set was 7.5. So there kind of wasn't that dominant guy. There were stretches where maybe they struggled a little bit with some consistency in terms of the pass rush, and, it makes you wonder, was it scheme more than maybe some individual talent, And so I think you certainly imagine them getting an elite-type pass rusher, a double-digit, legit sack guy. Now you put him in that scheme that generated 43 sacks. That got sacks from 14 different players. Guys like Jared Davis blitzing and a lot of different areas. You add an elite pass rusher to that, now I think you've got something pretty scary, in terms of rushing the passer in Detroit.
Definitely. Well, we talk a lot to the players about what they feel they bring to NFL teams, about their favorite pass rush moves, all of those kinds of questions that we hear here at the Combine. But we decided to have a little bit of fun during Combine Week and ask players who have connections to Michigan about what their favorite things are about our state. Take a look.
Favorite thing about Michigan, that's tough. Growing up, I was a huge Lions fan. So always, growing up, I would be watching the games, on TV on Sunday and stuff. But I was all the way in Texas, so I wasn't able to go to the games. And once I came back, I got the Eastern offer. I was like, all right, I need to go to some Lions games, and I got to go to a few. So it was awesome doing that.
Do you have a favorite memory going to the Lions game?
Yeah. So the first one I went to was it was a Thanksgiving game against the Vikings. Darius Slay got a pick to seal the game, and it was a crazy environment.
What would it be like if you ended up playing for your hometown team in the NFL?
I would love it. It would be a dream come true. Anywhere I get drafted, it would be a big deal, regardless. But being a Lion would be super special.
Being from Michigan, it's always on TV, and you're always watching Lions play. I grew up watching a lot of Lions games. I would say I did like Calvin Johnson a lot. That was when I was younger and coming up, and he was a freak. He was an awesome player, so I loved watching him play.
In your time living in Michigan, what's your favorite thing about Michigan?
I guess the cold. Being from Ohio, I'm kind of used to that, but they get a lot of snow out in Michigan, so that's probably the best thing. I love the cold. I'm not a huge summer guy. I don't like like being hot. I'm a huge winter guy. Exactly. Yeah, a lot of people don't like tackling that weather. A lot of people get frostbites. It keeps me warm because I keep going every play.
My favorite thing, I probably want to say the summers. I like the summers in Michigan. They're very bright.
Not the polar vortex. I'm glad I played that. I don't know. I really love Ann Arbor. You know, it's a great college town, and even though it's a humongous school, you know, it feels like a really small community. So, you know, Michigan's a great state. That was the first time I'd been out there when I came out to visit and to just live there. So, I mean, I didn't really know exactly what to expect, but I'm used to it and I love it out there.
It was a great place, you know, great people, you know, people in Michigan, very nice, you know, but being at Michigan State in East Lansing is a college town, you know, so everybody basically know, especially you play sports, they know you, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, you half the time you got to be on your best behavior. But I always on my best behavior. Great place though, man. I loved it. You know, just the people. I feel like the people just made it what it is.
My favorite thing about living in Michigan was definitely the people. You just can't beat it. That Midwest, and that's why it resonated so much with me, especially in Ann Arbor, was like the community, the school, the professors, and Michigan is such a hub for like attracting that type of person, and it's why it's so special to me.
Love that look at our state of Michigan through the lens of the draft prospects. That wraps up our final show from here in Indianapolis at the NFL Combine. We appreciate you guys tuning in all week long. If you missed any of our 4 episodes, they are all available on the Lions website. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. For DetroitLions.com, I'm Tori Petry.